Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. This is going to be a hoot. Later on in the program, we're going to take a look at the NSA, taking a look at you. I'm sure you don't mind. But first, let's talk about those open mouth breathers up north who think they ought to be their own state. Conway is one of the commissioners out there. Well, what is with Weld County? I mean, you guys, you're hardcore. Your sheriff was the guy who led the revolt on these gun laws and stood up, and now you're going to become the 51st state. And by the way, I want to just make it clear, I don't like North Colorado. I'm thinking New Colorado has a better ring to it.
We've heard that is a good suggestion.
Or Caldera would be a really good state. We'll talk later.
We'll talk later.
Right. Let me do the first. Come on, Sean, are you kidding me? You want to start another state? I mean, is this all for show? Or,
no, I
think. Are you just trying to make a statement?
Well, I think both. I think we're trying to make a statement to the legislature and the governor, who have been extremely tone deaf to the concerns of my constituents in particularly Weld County, but throughout north and northeastern Colorado. And
let's jump on that. Let's jump on that first, because Colorado's changed since I grew up here, and we used to have a respect for a whole different group of lifestyles, and that rural lifestyle was part of who we were, and now it's part of who they are. That this war on rural Colorado that Prius-driving urbanites, snicker at. What is your complaint? I know the governor said the gun laws, well, those are really going to affect the people in rural Colorado, but that's a price you have to pay. But other than the gun laws, is this just about gun laws?
No.
What has this legislature been doing and this governor that makes you want to boot him?
Well, let me count the ways.
Please.
I think this whole discussion started last summer when, in the midst of a drought, we asked the governor to look at potentially turning on some wells in Adams County, Weld County, northeastern Colorado, to help our farmers through one of the worst droughts our state has ever seen. He was fine signing executive orders to allow high mountain reservoirs to be accessed, which I agreed with him, to put out forest fires. But at the same point in time, he couldn't sign the same executive order to turn on some wells to help our farmers. That began the dialogue. Then you got into this year's legislative session, and let me count the ways. His signature on 252, which is the most hypocritical bill I've ever seen, advanced by an urban electorate who has no clue, quite frankly, where their food comes from. I think they go to King Soopers and Safeway, and magically the food appears on the shelves. They have no clue where their natural gas comes to heat their home in the winter. They go to a Sierra Club meeting, and then they stop off and fill up their car with gasoline. Where do you think that gasoline comes from? It comes from the oil and gas industry. And so I think that
252, for those who don't know, was the renewable mandate pushed not on for-profit companies, but on rural electric companies, and where there is industry out there, including timber and agriculture and very utility-intensive commercial activities, this is going to hit you guys.
It's going to have an unbelievable impact in terms of those folks, particularly our rural residents, small producers. And here's the hypocritical part of this, as you know, John. It exempts out municipally owned utilities. It exempts out Excel. It forces us to meet a 20% renewable standard, us being rural REAs. At the same point in time, for example, the city of Fort Collins gets to cheer about their 10% renewable energy
What else did this governor do and this legislature do this year that hacked you off?
Well, I think
rural Colorado.
Well, I think the oil and gas thing is what really, I think, has been setting us off. And although the governor has done some good things in terms of oil and gas, he hasn't, I think, ceded to the environmental extremists out there. But here's what we're facing, John. And I made a comment when this all broke, the news broke that we were discussing this, that our very way of life is under attack. And let me give you an example. Right now, 80% of the oil and gas activity in the state of Colorado, which is generating 70% of the money to the state lands board that goes through K through 12 education, is being generated in Weld County. If you include northeastern Colorado, it's almost 85%. And I don't see those communities that want to ban fracking turning that money down from their school districts, yet they want to ban fracking in terms of that.
I'll add a couple more.
Yeah.
There was a bill passed telling people out in the boonies how to handle their own livestock in the agriculture and
tail docking.
Yeah, yeah. There was a bill that was going to put a tax increase for education, which will drain lots of districts and flood money into the Denver Public School District. Yeah, this is a war on rural Colorado. I think it's pretty straightforward. What people don't quite get is that in the last redistricting, the House districts were redrawn so that only a few, I've heard 6 districts, are truly rural districts out of 65 House seats. The rest of them reach into urban areas or suburban areas to get a more progressive vote so that they can maintain a rule in the legislature. Republicans might not take back the House for a decade because of that. All right, let's bring it to this idea.
Okay.
Still, what a spoiled sport. You know, you lost some issues that you don't take your ball and go home. You know, whose idea was this to start looking at seceding?
Actually, our citizens. They started coming to our hearings, our Board of County Commissioner hearings, and saying, please do something. In February, March, April, as the legislature's March proceeded. And they brought this idea. And I know initially you look at this and you say secession, creating your own new state, that kind of tends to be a little bit out there. But the more you look at this and you find out all of the facts when you study the Constitution and determine that, hey, this is allowed in the Constitution because the founders said, hey, there might be times, and it's happened 5 times in our nation's history in terms of the creation of Vermont that split off from New York, Maine that split off from Massachusetts, West Virginia who split off from Virginia. And you go back and you look at the issues that were described in those processes. And like I said, Maine's probably the best example in terms of things, because really what happened was Massachusetts at the time was not affording any real attention to the area at that time, which was Massachusetts, following the War of 1812. And the residents said, look, we're not getting the services, we're not getting the protection we need, and we want to go about it ourselves. And I think that's all we're talking about. The other thing, John, as you know, the reason that I think this is so fundamentally important, we're facing next year the probability of having a statewide fracking ban on the 2014 ballot. I have the majority leader of the Colorado House of Representatives, Representative Hollingsworth out of Boulder County, who called the Weld County commissioners out at the recent CCI meeting and said, get ready, I'm coming back bigger and bolder in terms of oil and gas rules and regulations. I mean, this...
And that's your lifeblood.
That's our life. When I say our very way of life is under attack, that's what I'm talking about.
And you're not talking so much that the oil and gas, but your revenues as a commissioner come from that. What amazes me about Weld County, it is, from my knowledge, the only county out of all 65 counties that is debt-free. You have no debt. There's $7 billion in Denver, $8 billion in Boulder County. You have no debt. And it is amazing that you actually save up money and then you put an extension on the jail. You save up money and you build a road.
Yeah, and let me tell you what we're doing, because everybody says, well, what are you doing with all that oil and gas money? I'm opening up a new crime lab, not me, but our Board of County Commissioners spent $4 million of oil and gas money to make up a new crime lab we're opening in August, because we can't get our evidence processed in a timely fashion to bring people to justice in northern Colorado because of the backup at CBI. We're building the only 4-lane highway, new 4-lane highway in the state of Colorado from I-76 to Highway 14. $26 million project which will be done in the next 3 to 5 years that will actually relieve traffic on I-25 and Highway 85 by moving a new north-south arterial.
Just the facts here, because we're tight for time. 5 members on your commission, how many of them want to do the rebel yell and get out of here?
I think all 5.
All
5 have. You don't go about this. I'm not a free agent. I learned a long time ago, when you sit on a board, you make sure you have buy-in from everybody. We've all discussed this. We've all gone through the process.
Right, so you are serious about this.
We're absolutely
this is not just a teenage
No.
prank that you want to get attention. What about other neighboring counties? Are you in discussion with them?
Yes.
How many?
I would say right now between 10 to 16 counties, and it's growing daily. One of the shocking things...
10 to 16 counties?
Oh, yeah. In north and northeastern Colorado.
When you say you're talking to them, are you talking to the commissioners of those counties?
Yes. Who called us.
Really?
They've reached out to us and said, hey, don't leave us behind. If you go about and do this, we want to be part of this. And I will tell you this, everybody views this as a partisan exercise. Many of those commissioners are Democrats.
What exactly is this? I mean, right now it's a wonderful headline, but as far as mechanics, what are you planning to do? What are the steps you want to take? Are you saying you want to secede, or are you going to poll the people and find out what they want?
I think.
Are you what are you going to do? What are the steps to get there?
Good question. I think the first thing is know the legislature, which has to approve this, and probably refer it to the ballot for a statewide vote, because in the Constitution, our state boundaries are in the Constitution, and so every Coloradoan is going to get an opportunity to vote on this. But I think to have any credibility with the legislature, we have to put it on this November's ballot in those counties that want to proceed on this, and let the people decide. And if the people vote, and say, yeah, this is a idea.
Would they actually be voting to secede? Would they be voting to put together a plan to secede? What would they be voting on?
They would be voting on an initiative which simply says, do you want to send to the legislature a request to petition for statehood to the United States Congress? Because that's the process. The process has to go, the legislature needs to approve it, and then probably a statewide ballot will need to occur amongst all 64 counties, since the boundaries are in the state constitution. And so at the end of the day, really every current registered Coloradoan voter is going to get a chance to talk about
this. And
this.
also, you can bypass the legislature here in Colorado if they don't want to put that on the ballot.
Oh, we can put it on the ballot.
You can put it on as a citizens initiative.
Yep.
And so you could have a sizable swath of Colorado say we want to become our own.
Correct.
Well, and then it would go to Congress. They don't even have to take it up if they don't want to, but why would they vote to do this?
Well, I'll bring up the example of Puerto Rico. For more than a decade now, essentially the people of Puerto Rico voted that they wanted to become a state of the United States, the 51st state. It's been sitting there. A lot of discussion's been that you don't want to bring one in, similar to Hawaii and Alaska in 1959. You may want to bring an equal number in. And I think if we go through this process, and it's a high hurdle. Nobody disputes this is not an easy thing, nor should it be an easy thing that we have to go through. But I think at the end of the day, if the voters in how many counties, 8, 12, 16, 20, end up deciding, yeah, this is a course we want to pursue, they vote for it, it goes to the legislature, I think the legislature, number one, has to take it seriously. And if I was a legislator, I'd simply refer it to the state ballot next year in 2014 and let the entire state vote on it and see where we go from there. If it does make it back to Congress, I think in light of the Puerto Rico petition, which has been pending with the United States Congress.
Am I hearing that you have one very liberal state happening and one more conservative state happening?
Yeah, because as closely divided as the Senate and House is, no one's going to want to admit a Democratic state or a potential Democratic state or Republican. This way, it's you know, you could almost make the argument that you're allowing 2 states in, so you don't disrupt the percentages in terms of the United States Senate.
We could find out if this thing has momentum as early as this fall.
Yeah, I think the plan is one way or the other, and we've set a self-imposed deadline of August 1st of making a decision. At least our board has made a decision. We're going to make a final decision on whether to put this on the November ballot by August 1st. We're going to see how many counties want to join us in this effort, and then we'll go forth and we'll see what happens.
Can I help redesign the new state flag?
Yeah, sure.
Great. That's all I want to do. Jon, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jon. Thanks
Stay
for having
tuned.
me.